All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm really excited to welcome our next guest, Dirk Emmerich. So, Dirk is a pro natural bodybuilder and WMBF world champion. So, yeah, it's great to have you on the show, Dirk. How are things going on your end?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Anthony. So I'm really looking forward for the chat. And yeah, things are going great. So now I think almost, yeah, time flies, 5 months after prep and totally back into the off season, gaining momentum. So it's going amazing to say.
Good,
Yeah.
good to hear.
That's
Yeah,
great.
you're getting
Yeah.
strong, and yeah, it's good to see. Something I wanted to chat about was your proximity to stage weight that you tend to hover around, but we'll kind of dig into that a bit later. But before
Oh
we do,
yeah.
you're in Thailand now. What's like the bodybuilding culture out like over in Thailand?
It is definitely a little different than the US, than Europe. So I'm living here now for almost 2 years in Thailand. And yeah, I like it in a sense because like all the people like at the gym I train at, like everyone is like an athlete in a sense. So people doing it because they like to train. So they have that athlete mentality, which I really, really like. However, like, yeah, a lot of people are here enhanced to say. Like it's like
Right, right.
so easy to like there's not as much education than in the US and Europe. So and it's very easy to get here. So people like jump on to this route a little quicker. However, I'm looking forward of like the WMBF Thailand, I think will come here soon. So yeah, like more and more people take like stay natural, I believe. So this will
Mm.
be an amazing thing because there's a lot of people here with great genetics, great work ethics, and yeah, there's still a little that mentality. Oh, if you do bodybuilding, like you need to go like use like performance enhancing drugs. And they even don't know there's the other way around it. So that is something where I want here as well to like be like an influence of like show people, hey, you can build a great physique naturally. And that is something I really look forward here to like get more and more involved as well.
Yeah, well, you're definitely doing that. I mean, yeah, you've got one of those physiques that had someone who's not in the bodybuilding kind of landscape would look at and think, wow, how is that even possible naturally? So yeah, you're definitely doing that, which is great. I'm curious actually, has that going down that side of things ever been something that's been on your mind at all? Have you always wanted to stay natural?
Honestly, because I still see season to season how much progress I make physique wise, and then I think everyone who's like in at the elite level, like the thought is in the mind. It's like, okay, what if? Like
Mm,
I definitely had the thought, okay, like what if, like what would happen and so on. But I still see like so much progress what I make naturally, where
mm,
I feel like the compromise, like the main compromise is like the health side of things, what I need to give up to get there. And it's like, okay, well, how much more do I get out? Yeah, okay, I might could go to the Olympia, I could get better sponsorships, all those side of things. But then I'm thinking like, okay, like, is it worth compromising my health so much for
mm.
that? That is the main thing what is holding me back. If there wouldn't be that potential health risks, I might would do it. But that is like a big thing. But it's still like definitely like the what if thought is like always there. But like since I still see so much progress, I think like, hey, like why should I go there? And I see natural bodybuilding is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which is also very cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great. That's a great response actually, yeah, and it is. It does seem to be growing because I first competed back in 2015, and then I had a long, I wouldn't even call it an off season because I basically stopped. I had a family, I had kids, and then I come
Mm.
back last year and got back into it. And yeah, it seems a lot bigger now, not just in terms of the amount of people involved, but all the different categories. It's completely different to how it was a decade ago, which is great to see, definitely.
Because more and more people also believe in it now. I remember 5, 10 years ago, everyone thought, oh, those shows are all fake netties, they're not
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
And now more and more people really believe, like, okay, that is actually possible naturally. And back in the days, like most people thought it's fake netties anyway. And now it's like more and more accepted in a sense, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. Yeah, I wanted to chat a bit about your. So obviously you competed 2 seasons back to back. And before we get into like the progress you made during like from 23 to 24, what was your reason for wanting to do back to back seasons?
A big reason for that was like I like to experiment. So I
Yep.
wanted to see, I want to test limits. I want to see, okay, what is possible competing back to back? Because especially within natural bodybuilding, there's often the saying of like, you can't make any progress if you compete back to back as a natural. And I like, oh, I want to prove everyone wrong and showing like, hey, it is possible. to make progress in a sense. So this was like an experiment to see if that is possible for me. And yeah, like this was the main thing. And besides that, I also had the goal to earn the world champion title back to back. So this would be cool as well. But it was very close. So the
Yeah,
second place last year. And yeah, like those two reasons, I would say. Yeah, to like
yeah,
defend the title and also like showing like what is possible within back to back.
yeah. So a
That
bit of experimentation. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, that makes
And
sense. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it was close between you and the guy from China who won in the
seven,
WNBA
yeah, yeah.
finals, and
Very close.
yeah, yeah, it looked like a really tough battle there. Like what areas do you feel like you made the most progress in from 23 to 24, Dirk?
In what muscle group?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I would say I think the overall frame got bigger, like
Mm,
back to back. Like the X frame got much better. Like I think honestly everything improved in a sense. So like the whole package, like more of an X frame.
yeah.
And I don't think there's a single muscle group what wasn't improved. It was really motivating to me to see. And now I'm looking very forward because I take the whole year off until next year, knowing like, okay, having that extra year, like how much more is even possible again, which is
Mm,
very, very, very motivating to me. Yeah.
yeah. No, that must be, yeah, because you did, it was 2021 when you competed, or was it 22 you competed?
21. Yeah.
21. So
And
you had like a couple of years in between, and then you did back-to-back seasons. Would
yes.
you say like the progress was similar? So, or did you make more progress going from that first to second season compared to like second to third?
I would say from 21 to 23, I made more progress for sure,
Yeah,
but I made at least half the progress from 23 to 24,
got it.
or even three-third of it, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. And you're still quite young, aren't you, Dirk? How old are you?
I'm now 30
You're
years
30.
old.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the thing. Natural bodybuilding. Yeah, I'm 41 now, which is it's getting on a bit, but yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think it's a long game, isn't it? You see people like Jeff Albert still doing amazingly well, and yeah, for me it's inspiring, definitely.
Making progress until your 50s even,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
so amazing. And that's also a big reason why I plan to stay natural as well, because it's a long game. If you go enhanced, you maybe can do it maximum 8 or 10 years and it's done. With natural bodybuilding, you can do it like a lifetime, basically. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So true. So yeah, I'll be curious to hear this as well. I've spoken to a few different like guests about this and had like very different responses. So yeah, some guests got into bodybuilding from like more of a sports perspective. For myself, I was attracted to lifting weights just purely from like an aesthetic perspective. And then I kind of fell in love with the gym. I remember as a kid, so I'm really into artwork as well. So I was like a part-time artist before getting into
Yes.
bodybuilding. And I remember as a kid, my uncle got me this book on like fantasy art, which is a book on like, it was things like dragons and mythical creatures, but all the guys had like incredible physiques. And I thought, I want to look like that. And that's still in my mind. I still have that book actually. And I think that was one of the reasons why I got into bodybuilding. But I'd be curious to hear, like, what was your kind of, let's say, origin story? How did you get involved with bodybuilding and lifting in general, Dirk?
I have a very similar story like you. Like I was always inspired by Dragon Ball, by those
Ah,
anime characters, their physiques, even Hercules, like the Disney movie when I was super young.
yeah,
I remember myself 8 years old doing like a double bicep in the
yeah,
mirror
yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I want to get that big. But the main reason was because I was doing parkour before and I got, yeah, like in I broke my wrist, I had bad jumper's knee, so bad injuries, and I had to stop with it. And I knew from like being a child, I'm like an athlete, so I need to do something. And right after, I was thinking, okay, what is another sport? What is like attracting me the most? And from honestly, one to the next day, I was like, okay, it is like bodybuilding. So I was first going into calisthenics, so just body like street workout kind of things.
yeah,
I found out very quick I'm more about the aesthetic side of things. I'm more like not a strength or freestyle athlete, like more like, hey, I want to build a huge physique. And that was also inspired by like the anime characters and all of that. And that's how I got into it. So because yeah, I had to find another sport and I was thinking, what is the next thing? What is attracting me the most? And it was like just bodybuilding. Like that was the thing of like, okay, I really want to do this. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
So
Do
started.
you still do parkour at all, or have you had to say
Oh,
no
not
to?
at all. Like,
Okay,
like even to this day, I have like a little, I need to be careful with my patella tendon with my knees.
right.
because I started parkour when I was 12, and I think I
Wow.
have like a kind of chronic, like very, yeah, wobbly knees where I have to be careful with like those very like stop and go motions.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do. And if I do it, like, hey, it could mess up my training when I'm going there too hard. I can't do a hack squat for a week or two, so I'm
Mm.
very careful with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's quite an injurious sport, I suppose, parkour, isn't it? It's amazing what they can do though, for
Because
sure.
the impact is much more than bodybuilding. Like you do
Yeah.
a hack squat, if you do like a, I don't know, like a huge drop in parkour, like the impact on your joints is
Mm.
way more than bodybuilding. So that's why I can still train very quad biased, all of it. I have like some kind of pain, like let's say a 3 out of 10, which is
Yeah.
fine. But with parkour, the impact is like way, way worse on the joints. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. Yeah, going back to Dragon Ball, actually, it's only I never watched Dragon Ball as a kid, but I've got a son now who's 8, and yeah, we recently started watching Dragon Ball, but the very first series, so like from
So
1986,
good.
and it's really
So
good. Yeah, so it's not Dragon Ball Z, which we're going to watch next, but even the original Dragon Ball is such a it's a fun little show.
yeah, I'll always read the manga during my prep, like always
Really?
reread it. So it's also like I think it's especially for kids a good mindset as well
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Dragon. It
Oh, cool.
teaches a lot of good stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
No, that's good. So yeah, another area I wanted to discuss though was your training. So you have quite a unique style of training, in my opinion. Obviously, you're extremely deliberate with each rep. The eccentric is very slow and controlled, and you tend to prioritize like form over load. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, like the intensity is clearly there with your training, but I think it's still
Yeah.
a like a unique style nonetheless. I think I heard on a previous podcast you mentioned injuries as a reason like why you train that way. But can you give like the listeners like an insight into your training and why you train like the way you do, basically?
Yeah, like as you say, the big thing is like the injury side of things. So I'm very prone to like injuries. I'm very fragile with like specific loads. So the main thing why I train the way I do is like to not get injured. That is a big one while like making progress. So I like to see it as like making the movements as standardized and challenging as possible.
Yeah,
And therefore, I still get great amounts of like mechanical tension in while minimizing the stress on my joints. So yeah, I still try to get as strong as possible. So now on the RDL, I'm almost at 200 kgs again, which
yeah, I've
is
seen.
huge for me. But even there, I have it still a slow, controlled, eccentric, all of it. So I don't try to minimize the load in a sense. Some people might think of like, oh, I just want to train light. I
Mm,
want to just standardize it and still train as heavy as possible with that standard of execution, basically.
yeah,
So that is
yeah,
like the main thing, like why, and it's just like working for me of like seeing I make progress physique wise, and that is like the main thing because I remember in the past I got so many injuries,
mm,
and this made me realize like that is the worst thing that can happen. Like getting injured, like is such a setback, and it's not worth of like if I might make a slight bit better gains of like being a little more loose with my execution. It's not worth the risk for me in a sense.
yeah,
But even in the off season now, if you see my training clips, I'm even now a little more loose than in prep. Like in prep, I'm usually extra controlled, and now in the off season, I have a little more body fat on the joints. A little bit more loose, I would say. Like I still control, but not like super controlled.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that slight shift there, but yeah. Either way, yeah, your technique is very subtle. Yeah, your technique is is impeccable. And yeah, I find it interesting to see like the different approaches that athletes have to training. Like someone like Keithy West, for example, like another top pro bodybuilder. But if you were to compare like your training to his, there's like a distinct difference. And I
It's
wonder
a
if
step
it's like,
approach, yeah.
yeah, it's like very. I wonder if it's like a multifactorial thing, like things like joint size playing a role, but even like things like personality type. So if somebody's more aggressive, less agreeable by nature, it might influence how they train. But yeah, it's funny when it comes to like training intensity, I always see it as like a spectrum, and then at the very top end of that spectrum, you've got like Tom Platz, who's like ridiculous. I don't know if you have you seen his old kind of
I
leg
did,
training.
I did, I did, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, his joints must be made of steel with the stuff he gets away with.
Yeah, because they can get away with it. If I could get away with it, I would probably train also in a different way. So it's all about experience of like knowing, okay, like what works for you, what doesn't. And I think that is such a key thing, what I encourage every athlete. Like, I also don't like to see if other athletes like try to copy me too much.
Mm,
I would say find your own way or your own style, a mix of this or that. And I think that is the key to success within the sport of like, yeah, like finding that own style where you make progress, what is fun, what is where you stay injury free.
yeah,
I don't like that camps of like, oh, you have to train only like this or like this. I don't think that's a good way of seeing it.
that's really
Yeah.
true. Yeah, because everyone is just built a little bit differently, and yeah, yeah. There's obviously working around injuries and things like that as well. That's
And the
very
personality type, as you said, like I can imagine a lot of people like they just couldn't train as I do because they would get bored of it. They would
right.
not be consistent because they would get bored of it, right? And the same thing if I would train like more aggressively, like I couldn't sustain it because I would get injured. So that's
Mm,
always that context, I would say, with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. Yeah, it's really interesting to see. Have you remained largely injury free for the past like few years, would you say?
Crazy thing is like within the last 2 years, I didn't have a single like severe injury. Like I had like a hamstring, kind of little thing on my hamstring 2 times.
Yeah.
And that was about it within the last 3 or 4 years. Besides that, like some nickel sometimes, like a little like delt pain, a little more knee pain, but like nothing where I had to, yeah, like actively stop training, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's an overlooked area. I think remaining injury free is so key when it comes to making progress because it's a long game, isn't it, this really?
100%, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any like role models when it comes to like your particular training style at all, or was it just a case of kind of figuring things out for yourself?
Well, I think it might be a mix of with a lot of athletes, but mostly I honestly like figured it out myself, like in the sense, okay, this works the best for me. But I'm inspired even by my coach, by Alberto Nunez, like how he trains. I'm inspired by Matt Ogles. I saw like
Mm.
some stuff, like he also trains very clean. And yeah, like I think a mix of multiple athletes, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly even Alberto and yeah, Matt Ogles, I remember. Like he also has a very clean, good style of training in a
Mm.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Or Jeff Alberts as well. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Matt, you don't really hear of him much. I think he competed last year, didn't he? But
He
he's
did,
been
he
off the
did,
scene
yeah.
for a while.
Oh, he's now a big family man with 4 kids. I would think,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah, like that is a full-time job in
yeah, it
itself.
certainly is. Yeah, I've got two, and I can certainly agree with that. That's for sure.
Yeah, like for me, it's like, hey, when you're like, hey, single, no kids, it's a way different world, I think, of like how you can
Hmm.
manage that, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think yeah. It's just it's a few less things to think about, and yeah, you can put bodybuilding a bit higher on the list of priorities, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like one day when I have a family, obviously it's like, hey, you have like way different priority shift, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. It's bodybuilding, so you can see, because I often think about this myself. So I mean, obviously I'm a little older than you, but I'd like to be doing this for maybe another decade. Like I mentioned, like Jeff Albert's big inspiration of mine, still doing it into his like almost mid 50s now. Is it
Oh,
something
that's
you
great.
think you'd be doing for a long time?
I honestly think so, yeah. I can see I'm like because like I feel like my purpose in life in a sense is like being an athlete. And if I wouldn't train, I think I would become unhappy. So even if I'm 60, I think I need to train. I need to do sports, like feeling like an athlete in a sense. Maybe not as intense as a competitive athlete.
Yeah,
I could see maybe one day with, hey, like maybe I want to retire or like have like with a family, all of it at 50, 60 that I switch that competitive side off, but still train in a
yeah,
sense. So I think, yeah, but I see my at least like until my 50s competing still,
yeah,
like
amazing.
a big part. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
mean, yeah, with the way you're training, the style of training you do, I think, yeah, that definitely seems like a possibility. So,
longevity thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
another reason to train in that more controlled manner, I guess. So, yeah,
Yeah, to injury free, able to do everything until long
mm,
time. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say.
So I'd like to delve into your trademark conditioning a little bit, Dirk. So this is a bit of an interesting one because there are some guys who do get into like truly like what I describe as elite level conditioning, but they do
Mm.
push their off season weight relatively high. So there's a fellow Masters guy, James Durham, Ben Lloyd comes to mind as well, and then you get guys like Berto, David Kay, or yourself who tend to stay a little leaner in the off season. I think I fall somewhere kind of in between those two camps. for me, factors like food drive are a big one. So yeah, and obviously like body fat set point. What are your what are your thoughts on this, Dirk? So do you feel staying a little bit leaner in the off season just works better for you?
I would say so for sure because yeah, like a big part is like the body fat set point, and I think once you are there, you can just chill around that set point. Like what I'm doing right now, I don't even focus on gaining weight. I'm just maintaining it for like the last 6, 7, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just make very good progress with that. And I believe when you are having a low set point or you are staying around your set point, you will have all the energy required to like make gains from it. So you're not depending as much on a surplus. So I think people with a higher set point, they can't get away with it so much because their body is like not metabolically as flexible of like utilizing it to recover because the body is like still depending more on food and
Mm,
therefore they need like still depending more on the surplus pushing the body weight higher, but when the set point is lower, I think your body just it's like a kind of constant recomp, more or less.
mm,
What I think is the case because the appetite is so low, your body feels so safe. It is really just using that as an energy to adapt, in my experience for now, which is very cool. And I think genetics play the main role. I would never generalize it of like, oh, you should always stay lean. I think it's
yeah.
so much depending on the individual set point. And I think for people with a lower set point, there's no point of pushing the body weight much higher, like
Mm,
and feeling miserable and all of it.
yeah.
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 Like
It's
because I know if I push it too high, I get like digestive issues. I feel super tired all the time. And
mm,
like I wouldn't say developing an eating disorder, but it's almost like you hate food. It's like it is
mm,
work for me. Like, oh, I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat. I'm almost throwing up.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's also not a nice way of living, honestly.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. And that's the thing. If you can still, if performance is still good, and you can still gain muscle, then it makes no sense to push things too high.
Yeah.
So you're about how many kilos above stage weight are you now?
Right now about
8 kg,
kilos.
yeah. And you kind of want to
Yeah.
hover around that.
Yeah, like usually anywhere around like 72 to 74. That's like a good spot for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and honestly, I stay there for like 8, 10 months, like this, like
Mm,
72, 74 mark.
yeah, yeah,
Because you also have to remember, like, even 100 grams of muscle on a natural athlete is making such a crazy difference, especially for me, who's also a little shorter.
mm,
It is like so much of a difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've tried to adopt a similar mentality. I think I fall somewhere in between when it comes to for me it's food drive. I still enjoy food. I'm not force feeding in the off season, which is a good thing.
Oh,
But
mate,
yeah,
that's a lot of
so
life quality.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. And yeah, I feel comfortable in my own skin. I'm like lean-ish, but obviously nowhere near stage lean. But for me, that's like 12, 13 kilos above stage weight. But for me, that's kind of my happy place. I could get a little leaner, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I think we're all, it's definitely a spectrum, isn't it? And I think yeah, it's food drive and body fat set point seem to be the bigger drivers there.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like when we look at also other athletes like David Kay and
Mm,
Nathan Williams,
mm,
Bada Ali Khan, what is his name? The overall world champion, Brian DaCosta.
yeah.
They all stay super lean and they make crazy progress in the off season. So because
Mm,
those guys have also low set point, and
yeah.
that is why like they make still so much progress season to season. Obviously, they have elite genetics, but
Yeah.
still low set point, which is also part of having elite genetics. I think having a
Yeah.
low set point is also a part of having elite genetics, I think. Because
Yeah.
that's why they also, yeah, can get quite lean while
Yeah.
keeping all that muscle there, which is a big part. Usually, what we often see is people with a higher set point, they lose a lot of muscle mass, or they have a higher tendency to lose muscle mass because they further away from that set point, right?
That's the
So
thing.
that's
There's so
also
much digging to do, isn't there? Having said that,
yeah.
Benjamin Schuster, who you compete with, he tends to put on a bit more in the off season, doesn't he? I think. Although I think it's recently leaned up a little bit. But
I think so too, a little bit more. Yeah, he's also a little on the higher side. I think
mm,
so. Yeah,
yeah,
and he gets very lean. Yeah, so
yeah,
that's
crazy lean. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, same with like Ben Lloyd as well. Yeah, crazy condition, but he does like to push the weight up. But yeah, it's interesting how
yeah,
different
exactly.
like people can be. Like, yeah, it's funny those guys with like lower food drive and lower set points, and who struggle to push body weight up. In my head, it's like having like a built-in Ozempic kind of, the GLP-1 agonist. It's like a yeah, having a built-in version of that almost. But
And that's why they
yeah,
can compete also easily back to back
yeah,
in a sense.
and that's the thing.
That
Maybe
it's like
that's yeah.
that's also why I did it. It's like it is not as stressful for me. Where you ask some other guys with a higher set point, they would say competing back to back, are you crazy? Right? Like they take those 2 year off seasons because it's such a stressful thing for the body. Where even I mean like it's always stressful, but I think for people with a higher set point, getting that lean, it's a whole different level to recover afterwards as well from it.
Yeah,
I, I think.
that makes sense there. Yeah, because you hear people who have yeah these kind of side effects, and they're not even that lean. I think for myself, once I get 7 kilos above my stage weight, I start to feel the effects of just having a low body fat. Yeah, so that's why I think I fall somewhere in the middle of that kind of body fat set point spectrum.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where for me, it's like 3 kg above, I start feeling it.
Wow.
Everything that I don't really feel it. It's like at the 3 kg above mark, I start feeling it. And
Yeah.
before I just fine, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Were you like before you started bodybuilding, were you fairly a lean individual?
Oh yeah, I was always super like the kid who my mom always had to force feed me
Right.
when I was a kid. Like I was also a kid who doesn't want to eat and like yeah, been always on the definitely on the leaner side, like the skinny side of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the childhood tells a lot. Like if you're like a very like super lean child, usually, hey, it's already tell you have that lifetime low set point most likely. So
Mm.
it depends. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Genetics, they play a huge role. Yeah, they really
Yeah.
do. What would you say, Dirk, some like the biggest lessons you've learned? Yeah, slightly different, slight tangent here, but the biggest lessons you've learned since you started bodybuilding?
Ooh, the biggest lessons. I would say like a big one is like accumulation of like doing daily little steps and accumulating it after like 5 years or something, or even a little less. I think that is a big part because at the beginning I was oh I wanted to see those huge changes within like a month and stuff, and I was so perfectionistic, and I now translate it with everyday life where I'm like, hey, I don't try to be perfectionistic with my work, with this or that. It's like I just show up, and then I know over time it's accumulating, and that is I think one of the biggest lessons, and that's why I'm also having like on the outside like a little more chill approach to bodybuilding. Like people might think, okay, Dirk is very like more type B of like very laid back. And the main reason why is like because I know it's like it's accumulation. It's like, hey, I do the consistent big tasks every day and I don't worry about these little details too much. And then I know that's like really, really like bringing the big results for me
Mm,
because I know if I'm like 100%, it doesn't make a huge difference in
yeah.
within like a year from now. It's more so like that 80-90% over a long time, which is more sustainable,
Hmm.
brings those big results over a long time.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's so true. Yeah,
I
that's
think that's the biggest lesson I would say. Yeah.
yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Going back to like your personality, have you always had that kind of chilled disposition, would you say?
I had a period when I started with bodybuilding, I was super type A actually. I was
Really?
obsessed, like super obsessed about tracking everything to the gram of like also a period where I was focused so much on just eating clean, things like that. So I was towards that extreme for a little while and then figured out, hey, that's not bringing me most of all better results. It's stressing me out. I really like lose my social life with that as well.
Yeah.
And I was more developing like a mix of like leaning a little more back. And this happened once I started working with Alberto, who's much more, like, I think the most chill guy within the scene. Like, he's super chill.
Mm.
And with him, I developed like stepping a little more back and having that mix of both.
Mm.
And yeah, like, I think I tend to be even more like obsessive. But nowadays, I have all the experience where I know that obsessiveness is not good.
Mm.
So that is like a big part. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Because you come up in conversation when I was chatting to Berto, and he described you as, I think it was like a really good mixture of the two, the type A and the type B. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe
He
you're
told me
naturally more
that
type
too.
A, but then working with him, yeah, it helped you become a bit more, yeah, type B and
Like the
experience as
mix
well,
of
I guess.
both. Yeah. Where like I think within bodybuilding, most people are more type A, like
Yeah.
way more obsessive. Like I think that's yeah, like people get attracted to the sport because they have so much control, right?
Mm,
Like with all that side of things. And
yeah.
I think a lot of people would be even more successful if they take a little more chill approach, a
Yeah.
slight bit. Because the people who are way more chill in the get-go from the beginning, they don't even get successful in the sport, right? Like that
Mm,
is, I think, also a big part. So I think to be successful in the sport, you need to be naturally a little bit more like type A
mhm.
and then learning to step a little more back. I think that is the main thing. Because in my experience, most people are like way more lean back. It's way harder to teach them of like being more like structured and all of it,
Mm.
which is much harder, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree. I think that's more inherent, isn't it? You're either that way or you're not. And I think, yeah, you're right. Bodybuilders are typically that way inclined anyway. That's part of why we love all this structure and this routine. But yeah,
Yeah, like
learning to
every
chill.
3 hours, this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've mentioned it before, but yeah, you can see it backstage. Just the nerves that people have, and you almost wish, and I'm the same to an extent, but yeah, I wish everyone could kind of chill a little bit more backstage. Do you get nervous at all? I'm curious, like when you're about to go on stage, any nerves at all?
Ooh. Nowadays, not at all. It's
No?
yeah, it's very. I get excited. I get
Mm.
excited, but not nervous. Like my first season, I wasn't very nervous, but nowadays I'm like, yeah, like if you see me backstage, I'm just chilling, maybe watching some anime, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
getting at some point. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm more excited. Like once like starting the pump up, I'm like, oh wow, let's go on stage. It's more excitement than nervousness, I think.
Mm. Yeah,
So one thing I also learned is, especially within peak week, like a key thing is like being even more laid back. Like in my experience of like being even less obsessive, which
mm.
brings even better looking physique on stage. So that is like, yeah, because sometimes we tend to in the peak week of like being even too obsessive and then
Yeah,
the physique looks stressed on stage. And I think a key thing is like being even more laid back in the peak week, even though it feels wrong from the get-go, right? Like
yeah,
people always teach, oh, peak week, like you have to be super focused, go, go,
yeah.
go. But should be super relaxed and just doing the daily tasks, easy going. And I think this brings the best physique on stage in a
Mm.
way.
That's a really good point there. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Because yeah, it's the week where everyone wants to get as much control as possible, but it should be the week where you kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit. That makes sense. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. You've obviously amassed like quite a large like following since you got into to bodybuilding, Dirk. Yeah. What's in your head? How do I frame this? Does that come with any pressure at all, having a large following?
Mm, I don't think so. Like,
No.
it's like a pressure I enjoy in a sense.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, I know nowadays, especially when I do my next season, like there's way more like people like looking up to me, cheering me up, and they
Mm,
having probably expectations of like me bringing my best version on stage. And I enjoy that pressure of like, I will bring my best version, and I know like a lot of people like expect that from me, and I enjoy it. So it's like not a negative thing for me.
yeah.
Where it can be maybe for some people very
Mm,
hard, but for me it's like I think a very positive thing with
yeah, yeah.
that.
No, that's good. And
So
you're
like
coaching as well. You
inspiring
coach
others.
athletes as well, Nadi.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
also for my athletes, I'm like want to be a role model, and
Mhm.
everyone out there who's following me, I really like to like inspire all of the people.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Onto your training, Dirk. What's your current split looking like? You training 4 days a week at the moment?
I'm honestly training now 4 to 5 days, like
Four to
most weeks,
five.
5 days again.
Okay, so you have a
So
split where it's different body part. It's not like a Monday you do push, Tuesday pull. It's
no,
different. No, no. What's your current split like at the moment?
like 4 days a week, and I have 2 days on and then 1 to 2 days off.
Yeah.
So what Birdo and me decided to do is like having a more auto-regulative approach training wise this
Okay.
time. So if I feel like I need 2 days off or even 3 days off, I do it. And therefore I don't even need any deload. So I have such a good fatigue management because I listen to the body. If I feel like, hey, I feel good, I just take that one day off, go back at it. And I feel like, hey, a little more beaten up, I take those 2 days off. So it's like Monday, Tuesday, then I train Thursday, Friday again, and then Sunday, Monday again, and just repeat. So I don't have any fixed training days at this point.
Okay. And you find that approach works better for you?
Right now, yes, like the progress is outstanding right
Yeah.
now, which is super cool to see.
Mm,
And I think it's like being also more in tune with my body of like like listening more to my body, and that's also like a nice thing with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so a bit more of an intuitive kind of approach to things. What are the areas you're focusing on to really bring up for next time, Dirk, next time you're on stage?
Oh, main focus is quads. So I
Mm,
really want to bring the quads up. They are not bad, but compared to a lot of like Southeast Asian guys who I compete with here in
hmm
Asia, they all have very crazy quads. So
Yeah.
who like not look too much out of place, I need to bring them up. Like again, even though my quads are good, but I need to bring them to a freak level to look, yeah, like not out of place next to those guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, besides that, everything else, like especially the back I want to bring up, that's
Mhm.
also a big thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think everything else will grow on its own as well, like chest, back, arms, delts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a bit of a focus on quads. Um, we have to chat about your glutes. Your glute striations and your glute development it's just pretty crazy. Um, was that something that was a strong point from the very start for you, just having crazy glutes?
Yes, I think so. I think like that is like one of my genetically gifted body parts
Mm,
of like just having super strong glutes where there's no magic. I never like did any direct glute work like
yep.
hip thrusts or like split squats. So all of it comes from leg press, RDLs.
Mm,
And yeah, and I think as some dudes have like crazy good arms or shoulders, I have that on the glutes where it's like just a genetic strong point. And I think I get those striations in because it's such a strong point, so it can show through with like also low body fat in combination.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I guess it's that as well, isn't it? It's the fat distribution is very favorable in that area. Okay, that's interesting. You know, Eddie, don't do any. Have you ever done any direct glute work or never?
I did like glute pushes for like one mesocycle in the
Yeah,
past, but that's it.
yeah. Not
Like
not
never.
necessary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Um, yeah. Well, yeah. They're definitely a strong point, and I think I was chatting to AJ Morris about it earlier in a podcast, and I forgot the way he described your glutes, but I think it was something like as if he kind of someone had ripped aggressively the skin off, and it just shows these striations in all different angles, and yeah, they are some of the craziest glutes out there. But I thought that was a cool description of them.
Thank you so
Um,
much. Yeah, it's like I think that's like those like clean cut glutes, and I have more like that. Yeah, like nasty glutes.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, it definitely works for you. Um, I wanted to ask as well, what are some, in your opinion, you've been around the bodybuilding circuit for a while now. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think athletes make when it comes to a bodybuilding contest prep?
Ooh, one of the biggest mistakes, I think one of the still biggest ones, like people started too heavy, like the
Yeah.
contest prep. That's one of the biggest one. Not giving themselves enough time. That's also a big one.
Mm,
And yeah, and sometimes even like therefore washing it too much, like losing body fat way too fast and then sacrificing muscle and also sacrificing like hormonal balance. I think when you
yeah.
really push it, like you are breaking much more quick, and therefore you won't be able to get as lean.
Yeah.
So I think that a big part of like just not having the right setup, like not the right starting position, not enough time. I think that is
Mm,
one of the biggest mistakes I see. Another one I also see sometimes is like, yeah, like there's a fine line of like, hey, we want to keep like the performance up, our
yeah.
strength levels and everything. But I see it often that people grab on it too tight, where they're like
Right.
they so scared of losing any strength,
Yeah.
where the execution looks so much different. And I
Mm,
believe they get less stimulus in, more fatigue in, and then therefore don't keeping the muscle as good. So I think also having that intuition of no, okay, now I have to reduce the load a little bit to keep the quality there. And I think that's also a big part where like knowing like when to step back and when to push, like both nutrition and also training wise, I think is
yeah.
a big part. Yeah.
A couple of things. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because people are so keen on keeping the load the same. But yeah, it's gonna be a point, isn't there, where the strength is going to take a bit of a drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And you're right, it's about stimulus. If you're not stimulating the muscles, you're not gonna retain the muscle. So yeah, that's a really interesting point. Going back to the other thing you said there about what was it? Starting like a bit too heavy. You feel some people do. Do you tend to prefer like a longer prep or a slightly shorter prep?
If people start too heavy.
Mm. Oh, so if like yourself, like what do you favor when it comes to like your ideal contest prep? Would you give yourself lots and lots of time and favor like a slow, steady weight loss, or be a bit more aggressive? What would
I
you?
would say in between, in between.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I would say like I usually like to start prep like 16 weeks before the first show.
Okay.
So I want to push it a little bit, not too slow, not too fast, and having that sweet spot because I feel like if I remain in that condition for too long, it has its negative consequences. But also if I have to rush it too much, it has its negative consequences. So it's like the fine art of like,
Mm.
yeah, like having that perfect time frame in a
Yeah,
sense.
definitely. Oh, that makes
So I
sense.
would say in between. Yeah.
Yeah, so about 16 weeks, 4 months. Yeah, which makes sense for yourself if you're staying a little leaner. Yeah, yeah, and you're so true. It's so true. Yeah, my physique definitely faded a lot towards the end of last year because I was just so lean for so long. And yeah,
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 at some point, like your hormones are so down, like
yeah,
it's more almost always a hormonal stress side of things where your body's so stressed, it's like all it wants, like get me out of here, give me
mm,
food. And the longer you stay there, the more you have those negative consequences. Yeah.
yeah. Going
And
back to
it's
that,
impossible to
actually,
get out of it once you're in, right? Like
mm,
once you're in that hole, you can't dig
that's the
yourself
thing.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Once you're out, that's it. The prep is over. But going back to that, actually, Dirk. So how many? You did 3 shows. Was it last year,
I
or was it 4?
think it was Dubai, Taiwan, Germany Worlds, four
And what was, yeah,
shows.
yeah. What was your best look in your opinion?
Definitely WWF
It
Worlds.
was okay. Yeah, cool.
Best
Mm,
mix of leanness and fullness was
yeah,
at Worlds. Definitely, yeah,
yeah.
definitely there. Like Dubai, I was quite full, but not as lean. Taiwan, I was very lean, but not as full. In Germany, I was watery and also flat. And then Worlds, I had the perfect look, I
Yeah,
remember. So next prep, Alberto and me, we already planned a little ahead of like being ready a little earlier. Next time we want to start eating up earlier for the
got it.
shows.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
one plan. Yeah, one
Yeah.
plan. Like first prep, I was like way too, like ready too early, and then this prep, I was ready maybe a little too late, a slight bit.
Mm,
I think being ready a little earlier, giving myself more time to eat up, and then having that, yeah, regaining the fullness, which usually for me takes like a month of eating up to 3 to 4 weeks
yeah,
until my body is able to like store those carbs efficiently again.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, interesting observation there. What was the reason you feel you came in a little flat for one of those shows? Just not carving up enough, presumably.
I think for the Taiwan show, not carving up enough was a part of it. But another part, especially for Germany, I think was my body was just at some point your body's not efficiently storing carbohydrates anymore again. I feel
Mm,
like it takes some time, like hey, the body has to utilize it until it sticks again.
yeah,
So I feel like my body just was not able to, especially on my back, to make it stick there.
interesting.
And I feel like for me it takes like, yeah, a peak week doesn't do it for me. So I think
Mm,
like I need to go for like longer eat up phase until my body is like, okay, I feel now more safe. I'm storing those carbohydrates like more again now, in a
mm.
sense.
That's a really interesting observation there. Um, yeah, yeah. There's a lot to learn, and I guess so much to take from each show, isn't there? Really, it's a
At
lesson.
each season, each show, yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, we're reaching the end of yeah these questions here, which I had planned. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. So you've given us some amazing points here to digest. But as I always do, I'm going to do some quick fire questions now. Okay,
Oh yeah.
so what is your favorite film?
My favorite film. My favorite film. That is a hard one. What is my favorite film? Ooh, I really like Marvel movies like Spider-Man and stuff like that. So I would say one of my I like really like Spider-Man.
Really? Okay. Which one? The Marvel, the recent one that came out. Was it? There've
I
been a
really
few
like the
this year.
old school one, the first one, the
Um,
old school one with the Joker. No, yeah, I think so. Right,
oh
yeah.
yeah, that
No,
was.
the Goblin, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I really like this one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
don't
there's
really have a favorite film, but I have like genres I like much.
genres I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
you like anime as well.
And anime. So yeah, if anime, I would definitely say Dragon Ball,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's cool. I'm looking forward to watching more of that. What is your favorite food when dieting, Dirk?
My favorite food when dieting, I would say a cream of rice with
Hmm,
like some fruit on top and some peanut butter. Yeah. Like
nice.
I have more of a sweet tooth in prep for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
equipment wise, yeah, really
Um,
like that.
yeah, that's a good one. I'm curious actually. Being that your body fat set point, this is not a quick fire question at all, but being that your body fat set point is a little lower, how does hunger affect you during like a contest prep?
Not much at all. Like I feel almost relieved. I feel like, oh, I can enjoy food. Like 90% of my off season, food is work for me. So it's
Yeah,
like I just eat because I have to eat. And for the average person, right, food is always a highlight. I mean, even people who are not into bodybuilding, food is always a highlight for people, or like that nice dinner. For me, it's just like a part of like, oh, like I just have to do it. Like I
interesting.
never look forward to. I don't get as much like dopamine out of food, what normal people do.
Yeah,
And I get that during prep where I'm like, oh, I really enjoy that.
yeah.
So hunger is never an issue. It's more so a thing of like the low energy, which is the hardest part, I would say. The low energy and like the brain fog, the
Mhm.
yeah,
Mm,
I would
okay,
say.
that's really interesting. Yeah, Alberto had a similar response actually. Um, yeah, and it just goes back to that set point thing, doesn't it? But that's super interesting.
Yeah, so
Um,
sometimes I'm jealous to people who are having like that in between set point where they can enjoy food the whole off season.
mm,
It gives more life quality. Like a big thing where I think at some point if I retire, I'm like, oh, I can constantly enjoy food. This would be
mm,
cool. Because I
yeah,
just stay so lean that I
yeah,
can enjoy it. And that is like one of the, right? If you're a competitive athlete, we always need to make compromises. For me, one of the biggest compromises is like I never able to enjoy food. I'm always like, oh, I just have to get it down.
mm,
So that is, I think, one of the biggest compromises for me. If I wouldn't be a competitive athlete, I would probably hover around 3, 4 kg above stage weight and
yeah,
chill there and enjoy food. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a perspective you don't really hear very true. But I
Yeah,
guess yeah,
most can relate. Yeah.
it's a gift when it comes to bodybuilding. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I was
think
going to
it's
ask next, what's your favorite off-season food? But I guess there are many on that list.
yeah, favorite off-season food. I would say sushi and pizza.
Okay. So calorie
Sushi and
dense
pizza.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, cool.
Oh yeah, calorie dense.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Good choices.
Sushi and pizza, I would say. Yeah. In the prep, it's different. Cream of rice and cookies.
Yeah, cookies.
I
Okay.
think I don't eat cookies during prep, but what I crave the most is like usually cookies. I really like to eat in prep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And last question, Dirk. What are your hobbies outside of bodybuilding?
My hobbies outside of bodybuilding, I like to travel. That's something I want to do more now this off season again, especially within Thailand. Like it is sometimes hard to combine being a competitive bodybuilder. It's like I'm a little type A about I always have to train at my same gym. I try to be a little more loose this off season of like, okay, if I go a week train in a different gym, because this is always holding me back about traveling more. It's like, oh, I have to train in a different gym. Nutrition wise, no problem, but always the thing of like having to train in a different gym.
Mm,
But I enjoy a little adventure traveling. So I think that is one part of it. And besides that, I like to like read, play sometimes video games, things like that, watch movies, so some of those introverted side of things.
yeah.
But I also like to like go out with people of like, yeah, maybe just going to cafes or going to a bar, like those side of things I like as well, where I want to do also a little better job this off season, where I feel like the off season gets even better if you stick to some hobbies of like
Mm,
being sometimes spending time with people outside of bodybuilding and yeah, like traveling because in our sometimes it feels wrong. It's like, oh, I sabotage my goals if I'm not super like like always living in a bubble.
yeah.
So that is one part I want to do. Yeah, a little better job this off season with as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you sound like you've got some, yeah, pretty well rounded there. You're not just bodybuilding, which is, it's good to see. Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it makes the bodybuilding even better, right? Like sometimes we think of like if you use only bodybuilding, sometimes it's we getting stressed out and we don't even realize it, right? It's the same thing of like working 16 hours a day and you don't even realize your work could be better if you take a little time off, right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, because bodybuilding it is kind of it's all encompassing, isn't it? When you have to think about there's diet, there's training, there's recovery, there's sleep. It's a lifestyle. So yeah.
And especially in the off season, you can let a little more loose. Like I have like usually a set sleep schedule, but in the off season, if I go to bed 2 or 3 hours later a day, I'm like, I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter too much.
Mm,
I had periods where I was so like, oh, I have to go to bed at the same time. I have to do this, I have to do that. And I think like sometimes I try to let also a little loose of the bodybuilding world where I think like, okay, there's more within life than just that. Because at the end of the day, I do that to also enjoy my life in a
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Not taking away too much from it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, great. Yeah, great answer there.
It's
Well, look,
like a
this has been
fine, yeah.
what's that? Sorry.
It's a fine mix, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Like to
No,
find middle spot. And I think it looks different from person to person. Like what is balance for me might be like super stressful for someone else. What is balance for someone else would be stressful for me. So we need to find that own sweet spot, I think.
yeah, that's true. Everyone is very different. You've got to find what works for you. Um,
Yeah.
well, look, this has been amazing, though. I've really enjoyed this. You've given us some great points there to think about, and yeah, this has been a ton of fun. So yeah,
Appreciate it. It was amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, thanks. I really appreciate you joining me. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and for listening, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
See you guys.